Well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Hopefully, everybody's had a great day, great week. Looking forward to a bit of downtime over the weekend because I certainly am. Episode 129 today of Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast with Joel Annesley. How you doing, Joel?
I'm doing really well. 129th episode. Wow,
Yep,
well done.
we're climbing.
I'm so glad to be joining you here on this lovely Friday afternoon.
Oh, thank you.
I think we're all definitely gearing into weekend mode.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, the sun is shining. I can't see a cloud in the sky. It's some nice beach weather ahead of us, hopefully.
Absolutely. I hope so. Hopefully we're coming into a nice summer and a
Yeah,
nice end of year period.
with no bushfires.
Exactly. Yeah,
Touch
very good
wood.
point. Absolutely. Fingers
Mm,
crossed.
yeah.
But for everybody out there, today we're going to have a fantastic discussion all about a very interesting topic that's getting a lot more listening and ears these days and talk these days, which is how to quietly build your self-confidence. So for everybody who doesn't know Joel Annesley describes himself as a former shy person who is now a proud introvert, following the 2019 launch of his first book, Quiet Confidence, Breaking Up with Shyness. Joel uses his inspirational story combined with his qualification as a life coach as the foundational framework within his coaching business, Quietly Successful, as he steps up to his personal mission to help 100,000 people break up with shyness and develop their quiet confidence. That's fantastic. 100,000 people.
I'm on my way.
Oh, well done. Well
Well
done.
and truly, but thank you so much for that introduction.
Well done. Well,
That's
welcome to
awesome.
the show, Joel. Real pleasure.
Awesome pleasure. Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this topic because it's obviously very close to my heart.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, where would you like me to start? I
Let's
suppose.
jump in. Tell us a bit about, your journey and how this became such an
Yeah,
important topic for you and how it became such a passion.
yeah, totally. Um, I think it stems from this idea of, you know, how you can turn what you think your complete failings are, and they can somehow transform into something you never knew you had inside of you.
Yep. So true.
And so I reflect on my childhood. When I was a young kid, I was so incredibly quiet. Like I didn't want to speak up in
Yeah.
class. Everyone would say to me, Joel, like, why are you so, like, I got labeled that nervous shy kid, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and that plagued me. I was just like, I really labeled myself,
Yep.
and that went all the way through to, you know, my young adulthood, where I kept on telling myself I was different. There was something not quite right about me.
Yep.
Why wasn't I that person that could just get out there and speak to everyone? And then it sort of hit me many years later that I could be okay with myself,
Yeah.
and I didn't have to be an extrovert. I could learn to embrace the label of being an introvert and being okay with that.
Sure.
And so that's where I introduce this idea of quietly finding your confidence,
Nice.
because I remember myself back, you know, years ago, I'd be pushing myself, really pushing myself out there and trying to, you know, mingle in networking events. And I'd I've noticed something, because all the self-talk would be like, you're just not doing this right. Like
Yep.
you're just coming across as awkward. You know, this is just not you. And I suppose the epiphany that I've had, it's that big realization that if I can just take a nice deep breath and say, Joel is enough. And I'm also talking to everyone listening,
Yeah.
saying, you are enough. You
Nice.
can be yourself. And the more that you can step into that identity, not having to be somebody else that you admire and wish you were them,
Yep.
but actually embrace who you are truly, everything just starts to change.
Yeah.
And so I went from this young, shy kid who I found a lot of, like, the trigger for a lot of the stuff I went through. And that was back in my first year of school.
Yep. Wow.
I had a really tough teacher who sort of picked on me a bit. And you know, the realization all those years later that I took that to heart.
Yep.
You know, and many of us find, and I'm sure we can all relate to some degree, that our childhood, nobody's childhood is perfect.
No, definitely.
I'm sure you can agree with me here, right?
Yeah, and we're all molded, as you say.
Right.
That's when we're really molded. And I love the way you said before, that's what I told myself, because that's such an important thing. Our internal dialogue makes us who we are.
That's so true. We self-reference as we go throughout life. It's just something we do. So we create this map of the world, the way we see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize that. We take everything for granted, saying it must be true.
Yep.
But it's not the case.
It's not
the case at all. So I went through this you know, realization, this aha moment. I became a life coach, and I went through this journey of writing my story and sharing the lessons that I've been through. So I launched my book that you mentioned, Quiet Confidence. That's it.
Nice.
There.
Beautiful.
Oh, if you can see it.
There it is. Yep.
So I launched that in 2019, and it's just been remarkable. I went through that journey of saying, look, I don't care anymore. I don't care if people throw tomatoes at me up on that stage.
I'll make tomato sauce.
I'll make tomato sauce, exactly. And I heard something else recently that I just laughed at, because you know, when you're talking about how realistic is something actually going to occur, like you say, when you attend a conference or you're up on stage, how many people in the audience are there ready with tomatoes? Like, how often does that actually happen?
Yeah. How often do they actually go to the fruit and veg store around the corner just before they walk into the theatre?
Exactly.
Bring a bag of nice Roma tomatoes with them.
And so, you know, you can when you have that realization, and if you are on stage, and this is something I you know, help with you know, my clients with, is if they're in new environments, whether it be helping them with public speaking or getting out there and networking, you know, there's so much self-talk that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
It's learning how to essentially choose what you want to take on and choose
self-regulate.
Yeah, exactly. Self-regulate. Because I mean, you know, we have more than about 50,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
Right. And so when people get stuck in a particular thought pattern, it makes you realize, well, you're choosing to, unconsciously, of course, you're not necessarily aware of it, but unconsciously you're saying, these are the thoughts that I'm believing, and the rest of them I'm just disregarding. They're just, you know, automatic thoughts that are going on. I love that analogy. I don't know if you've heard ants, automatic negative thoughts.
No.
So you can have ants in the head, right?
Ants in the head. I've never heard that one. Automatic negative thoughts. I like that.
Yeah.
Well done.
So what I'm getting at here is the ability to be able to have that awareness that you have choice.
Mm-hmm.
And when you realize you have choice, you have power.
Yeah, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, in your story, when was the catalyst? When was that point in time when you said, time to make a change? That's enough. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, look, I go back probably a good 5 years ago, you know, and I realized that I had an epiphany that the way I was going about my life wasn't serving my story. It wasn't serving me. It wasn't like, I felt like I was constantly coming up against a brick wall. Right, you know, I had these grand visions of where I wanted to go, but that brick wall was the self-confidence.
Yeah, or it might have, and also it might have been the same brick wall. Like you always, the same pattern kept repeating.
The same pattern kept repeating.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So it was. I had that, you know, I was starting to go through, you know, the personal development journey, reading books, going to seminars, and then I suppose, you know, a big catalyst for me was that learning to be or become a life coach, you know, and being coached by others. And so at that point as well, you know, I had the lovely Jane Turner, who was my writing coach, and she was so incredibly instrumental in helping me have those aha moments,
Yep.
you know. And I reckon writing a book is definitely one form of therapy.
Yeah.
Hypnotherapy is another, which I'll definitely talk about.
Nice.
But that process of getting stuff onto page, I think this is for anyone listening. If you want to be more aware of the thoughts that are going on up there, once you actually write them down and have a look, and you can even use like highlighters.
Yeah.
Right? You can actually go, okay, I'm going to highlight negative thoughts and highlight the positive ones.
Yeah.
And let's have a look at what's actually going on up there.
Yeah.
You know?
People will probably find that quite confronting. So, oh my God,
Yeah,
am I really thinking that?
yeah. Is that actually what's going on? And the really interesting thing about that too is you'll realize that the majority of the thoughts that we have on a daily basis are repeated.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you don't interrupt the pattern of thoughts that you have, then you're going to repeat the same old thoughts over and over again.
Yeah.
So in my example, that's exactly what happened to me. I had that little shining light that says there's something there for you, but I had too much of the ants going on.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was
so,
always just
yeah,
an arm's
confidence.
reach. It was just couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, exactly. So when I learned that I had the ultimate choice, that I could choose the thoughts that I had.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is what happens to us is we will feel something,
Mm-hmm.
right? An emotion will come up. And sometimes it's like completely unconscious. Maybe you were at the shops and a song played. And then suddenly you're back home and you're feeling all emotional. And it's because that song triggered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I could see
it
you
took
nodding.
you back to a certain time. It took you back to a certain situation.
Yeah.
And it triggered that memory.
Exactly. So it's having that sense of awareness that that happens, and that's perfectly normal. But the problem is when feelings come up, we take them on as similar to thoughts. We take them on as truth.
Yes.
So you feel sad or whatever emotion is going on.
Yep.
You say, well, this is heavy. This is really heavy.
Yeah.
But we never actually put numbers to the feelings, do we? Because we can't put numbers to feelings.
Yeah, we don't take the time to qualify.
Exactly.
Is this real? Do I and choose, as you say?
Yeah.
Is this really what I want to think right now?
Yeah, exactly. And look, I'm not saying that that we should try and stop our feelings. I mean, of course, when bad things happen, we just have to ride through it. Like when you have to grieve, you just got to ride through it, and that's just part of life. But there are definitely tools that you can embrace, or there are different techniques that you can become aware of that can change the direction, so that you stop repeating the same old thoughts and you install new ones, and that every day that you start focusing on these new ones, wow, things like little things just pop up. You're like, did the universe just communicate with me? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah. Did I manifest something? Wow.
Yeah. And as much as you can say, I'm, sure you might be in alignment with the universe, but you're also in alignment with yourself.
Yeah, so true.
And I think that's the really important point is if you can do that, I think that's kind of where I'm getting at with this idea of quiet confidence.
Yeah.
Finding that within and being that authentic self where you can step up and say what you need to. And I give the example of my book launch. I was up on that stage. Now, normally I would have been terrified to get up and talk to an audience.
Yeah.
In my childhood, I'd be up on, like giving an oral presentation. I'd be up and I've got the complete, anxiety running. I'm shaking my page as I'm trying to read it. And my notes are like falling everywhere. And so I reflected on, that childhood experience to being up on that stage and speaking from the heart.
Yep.
And it was almost like I was picturing that young little boy that was trying to connect with his future self.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like me talking to that little boy saying, it will be okay.
Yep.
You'll get through this,
Yep.
you know, and that to me was such a beautiful, touching moment. I just like, oh, and that gave me so much confidence that if I can do it, if anyone out there has felt like you really struggle with your own self-confidence, you told yourself that you've got low self-esteem, you've had the thoughts that have just constantly plagued you, there's a way out. There is a bright future ahead of you. And I just feel like I'm living proof of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, something that I wanted to touch on, you know, you've mentioned it a few times, is that you keep saying quiet confidence. And I love that, because when I think about confidence, I think about confidence in the way that it is a very quiet confidence. If you're very over the top extroverted, that's almost like you're overcompensating or overconfident. Whereas a really confident person in all their fiber doesn't have to put on a show. They can be very quietly confident and have a lot of charisma and just be one with themselves and be comfortable in their own skin. And so I think that's a really important point. You know, quiet confidence is really a reflection of strong confidence rather than overconfidence or overcompensation.
Yeah, very much so. And it's, I think it's important to acknowledge that, like one thing that used to plague me was like, oh, I've got to really push myself to speak up at every given moment, because I felt like I had to make up for all the times that I just sat there, you know.
Yeah.
And I've come to realize that doesn't work, and that there is confidence in silence.
Yeah.
You know,
you don't have to fill the space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in some of the meetups that I've run over the past few years, we talk about this idea of, you know, essentially silence can be perceived in different ways. It can be perceived as an awkward thing.
Yeah.
Or it also can be perceived as golden.
Absolutely. And extremely confident. Just
exactly. And as you know, like sometimes the pauses between words are more powerful than the words themselves.
100%. Definitely. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, I love music, and they talk about that in music a lot as well.
Yeah.
You know, the rhythm and the pauses in music make everything. So you don't have to always fill the space. But when we talk about confidence, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to always say something or, show that you are doing something or saying something or engaged in something. You can just be and be confident by just being.
Yes.
So I really like that.
Yeah, definitely. And especially in that regard, there's that thing that can sometimes plague us, that we don't know enough. Like we've got to keep learning to have that confidence. I would like to say that it's more than okay to have knowledge or skills gaps. That happens. We can't know everything.
No way.
And so it's more than okay. And I think this is coming back and bringing up, you know, touching upon the stuff from our past where perhaps we were belittled or told, you know, you haven't got this right, or you haven't really picked up this skill yet. We can look at this differently now, and we can say there's nothing wrong with the unknown, what we don't know yet.
Yep.
In fact, I like to think of it now, there's something incredibly exciting about the unknown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, yeah, exactly. If I said to you, Darren, if I could just, you know, install all your life like memories, like even your future potential, if you could just download it and know your entire life experience,
terrible.
There'd be no surprise, right?
Yeah, I would hate that.
Yeah. Like there's so much joy in the process of learning. You know, that's
so true.
just yeah.
So true. And there's a famous quote, actually. I don't know. I think it's just an unknown quote that I picked up once, and it says, "Replace fear with curiosity."
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about. You know, and even to have the confidence to know that you might not know everything now, but you can find out. You can work it out.
Yeah, it's all figure-outable.
Exactly. So let's chat a bit about some tactics and some strategies for helping people build their confidence.
Yeah.
And maybe even helping people help others to build confidence? What are some of the tactics
Yeah.
that you use?
Yeah, definitely. Look, one of the big sort of exciting pieces that I'm working on at the moment, and as much as I've been really helping people in the last couple of years as a coach, I felt that I was only chipping away at things at a very surface level. And when I started finding more about this idea of hypnotherapy, there's something in this.
Okay.
There's something in this.
Yep.
So I'm actually nearly finished my formal qualifications in becoming a clinical hypnotherapist.
Nice. Wow.
Which essentially means that I'm going to be able to offer people the ability to bypass that head chatter and talk directly to the subconscious.
Wow.
Which is incredibly powerful. And the interesting thing I need to state before I talk more about hypnosis is that it is nothing like the stage show, movies that you see.
Nothing like David Copperfield.
Yeah. Into my eyes. And the pocket watch, all of that.
Yeah.
I've really learned that it's the complete opposite of that. And it's more likened to the idea of me guiding you through a meditation.
Yep. Nice.
And it's the old form of hypnosis was very directive. It was almost like, you will become more confident. You will feel this, you will feel that. And the problem is that when you hear that, the mind kind of has its doubt, because it's up against that thought process again, saying, I'm not sure I actually believe that.
Uh-huh.
So what I'm learning about and practicing a lot at the moment is this very indirect, gentle therapy of gentle suggestions based on what I get from the client. So they I have a consultation with them. We go through this idea of what are their challenges, but also what are their strengths, and what are their skills, and so what can we take away from their skills to help essentially solve the problem space, right? So then I guide them through like a 20-minute hypnosis session, which I like to think of it as they always remain in control. It's not this mind control thing. They are always in control. They can snap out of it whenever they like. I'm just there to help navigate. And the experience to date has been absolutely remarkable. And I've had those moments where I've been able to personally help others, talk to that subconscious mind and have those aha moments in 20 minutes.
Wow.
And go, I've been doing my life this way. I know now I've got that confidence within me,
And is it possible after one session to permanently change the way you behave, or is it something that you need to do over and over again?
Ideally, what you want to do, you will have, and I've had sessions myself where I feel different almost immediately.
Right.
It's different for every person. So you may go, okay, I'm kind of feeling a bit relaxed, but I don't know if I got anything. But what can happen is a few days later, you're just like, wow, I just noticed something. Like, what just changed? And so what you do is the sessions get recorded as well, so you can listen to them time and time again.
Okay.
And you usually pick up something different each and every time. But generally, the kind of treatment plan that you put together would be about 4 separate sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So I suppose my key sort of approach is helping the work on the mindset as much as I can guide people on what are effective strategies to get out there, network with people, like all the building, having the right body language, how to do the small talk and all that sort of stuff. But as much as that's important, I sort of think if you don't work on the inner thoughts first, it's almost pointless. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like if you can address that, then you can really build upon your skills. And that's where the coaching then steps in. And then I work with you to develop, okay, what is it that we would like to achieve next. And it's the coaching is, I suppose, more so then about the accountability. So we tackle the problem space. We help get through some of those limiting beliefs and change that perspective, and then we couple it with the coaching. Yeah.
Nice. So in other words, so you don't have to only work through hypnotherapy style coaching. There are other coaching styles that you can work through to allow you to gain that correct mindset.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to be a firm believer in hypnotherapy, just because, and they say it can be about 10 times more effective than us just having a psychotherapy type of discussion or coaching sort of discussion. But when you're in that gentle trance state, you're kind of bypassing the doubt, and you're allowing your subconscious mind to take on what it needs and discard what it doesn't.
Yeah, you kind of remove all that potential distraction and that that negative thought.
Yeah, exactly.
Get straight to the source.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So, I suppose that's very much where I'm going, and I'm already seeing some incredible benefit, not only for myself, but the others that I've worked with, in the class. And I will be officially launching. I don't have a particular date, but it will be early next year, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, congratulations!
So you
well done.
Pretty much you had the exclusive around that.
There you go.
I've been very hush about it.
We've heard it here first.
There you go.
Well done. And so tell us a bit more about your book and what people can learn and gain from reading your book.
Yeah, definitely. Look, the way I position the book is it's this idea of I start off with sharing some of the challenges I had in my own life. It's sort of part of my own therapy, but then I bring out some of the learnings that I picked up from that. So just being aware of the thoughts that come up, acknowledging. I suppose one of the big things that I always come back to is this idea of labels. What will end up happening
as well.
Self-labels, yeah, exactly. So you might hear somebody gives you a label and you adopt it, and then you take it on. So I very much share in the book this idea that you ultimately have the choice to choose the label that's right for you. So I started out with that label of saying that I was a shy person, and I made that declaration that, okay, I might get shy sometimes, but it's not part of me anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be embedded as part of my personality. Yep. It's quite normal for people to have a certain level of shyness.
Of course.
It just sometimes it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we all have times when we feel more confident and sometimes when we feel more timid.
Yeah.
But as you say, understanding and having the self-awareness to know when we're feeling that and choosing the right path and the right behavior, that's the key.
Exactly.
Not automatically just falling back into your old self-limiting behavior style and never allowing yourself to grow.
Yeah. So in the book, I very much cover this idea of, you get choice, and then starting to talk about, the different thoughts that you have in your head, the positive ones, the negative ones. I kind of like to think of them as different authors, and as you turn the page in your own book, and as you start a new chapter, you get to have that level of choice as to what the next few pages look like.
Nice.
Or, the next few chapters. And I think one of the beautiful insights that I had is that you can reach the point where you no longer look back at your past in embarrassment or wishing it didn't happen, but you give it the space that it needs, but you also accept it. Because you have that realization that the struggles that you went through equal the person you are today.
100%. As they say, we're the sum of all our past experiences.
Exactly. So I've gone through this understanding of there's no point trying to hide what you may have considered an embarrassing childhood, actually embrace it.
Yeah.
Just be who you are. And one of the things that made me smile immensely, Inc.com grabbed a quote from my book, and it was around this sense of, I think, I'm trying to remember specifically how it was worded, but it was around this idea of wanting, or the desire to feel normal. And feeling weird. And I quoted, I said, feeling weird is like the new normal, you know?
Absolutely. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so true. You know, we have to feel that we are always on the edge, and we're always striving to find that next step, striving to change, striving to learn, to grow. If it was all very safe,
that's right,
it wouldn't grow, and it would be boring.
That's right. And that idea that the thought that I always had in my head is like, oh, I'm always on the outer of the circle, you know, and that to me used to plague me. But you can change that. You know, you can reframe it, and you can realize that you don't need to fit into somebody else's circle. You've got your own circle. You know,
own your own circle. Own your own space.
Exactly. You've got your own space.
Yep.
And that also helps you to, you know, instead of putting other people on a pedestal, realize that every single human, we're on this planet, we are no better or worse. You know, we all are at essentially that same level, and we all desire the same sort of levels of connection. So when you have that awakening and awareness, it's quite beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Oh, indeed.
And then you get out of your head. I think that's one of the next sort of messages is when you learn to have that reflection, you know, practicing things like mindfulness, you can learn to sort of get out of your head. And then when you're at a networking event, you can turn up for people. So you're not stuck around what am I going to say next. You're just there, you know.
Yeah. I like it. And so I'd love to hear a story or two. Have you got an example or two of how you might have coached somebody through confidence issues? And I'd love to hear the journey and the result.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I want to talk about an example more recently because it was just so incredibly powerful.
Great.
And it was actually with one of the other students in my course. But
fantastic.
That aside, we went through an example where this particular student, she always as identified as having that sort of low self-esteem, you know, and so we automatically connected, saying, you know, we've both sort of had that challenge with self-confidence. So I ran a hypnosis session for her. And the beautiful thing about what I did is I took out the language that she used. So she spoke about, you know, for example, being able to sparkle, you know, and so I embedded that into this language of feeling more confident and being able to, you know, essentially step up and be the person you've always desired to be, incorporating some of those sort of, I suppose, using those suggestions and allowing her to determine what was right, what she could just completely let go of. 20 minutes later, she comes out the other end and I go, so how was it? Like, just thinking this is a classroom exercise, like didn't think anything of it. And she's almost got like tears in her eyes, right? And I'm just like, wow. This is powerful stuff. And she's talking me through the experience that she had and what she was able to do, what she was able to reframe and have control over her thoughts. And I was then nearly crying myself because I'm like, it really hit home just how powerful this stuff is and how powerful it is that I can soon offer that to some of my clients who have really struggled in that area. Because, I mean, we all go through that sense of anxiety at some point or other as we progress throughout life. We come across new challenges, the newness of life, you know, and sometimes we see it as incredibly scary, but I can help people reframe it and see it as an adventure. And
Yep.
when that changes, it's like, and you can feel that change. There's no going back. Like, you
No,
are a
no.
changed person, you
That's
know?
so true. And that's so true. I love that. It's like once you've opened up that door that
Yeah,
you never knew was there, you
yeah,
can never close it again.
yeah, yeah.
So it's opened up this whole world that you can draw from all the time.
Exactly, exactly. So, I mean, after that, like, she was like, "This is incredible." Like, she said, I'm calling you my therapist now," and I just,
Oh, fantastic.
and I just laughed. But it just goes to show the power of this tool, and
Yeah,
I call it another tool in the tool belt, really.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and
And I've been hearing more about hypnotherapy lately as well. Usually
yeah,
connected with NLP and hypnotherapy.
that's right. That's right. And so it's very much, it is drawing upon some NLP as
Mm.
well. I am doing a separate course in that actually early next year.
Yeah, great.
But fascinating
Nice. Yeah,
topic.
fascinating stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, very
Well
much so.
done. Well done. And I mean, it's obviously very simple, but confidence can give us so many things in life. We can do so many things with more confidence.
Yeah.
But why is it that these days it seems to be more and more talked about than ever before? The fact that people don't feel confident in doing this or doing that, or they just don't feel like themselves or whatever.
Yeah, look, I think it's more socially acceptable to talk about it. I
Mm.
think maybe in the past there's been, we've kind of maybe we've evolved in a sense,
Mm.
and maybe it's stirred things up. I kind of think of it as, you know, we brushed our problems, our doubts and concerns under the rug.
Yeah,
You know, today we're getting better at bringing them to the surface,
definitely. Yeah, I'd say so.
but it also makes them more visible.
Yeah.
So, and maybe there's a positive and a negative, because when you're more visibly aware of them, it's more challenging then, because you're obviously wanting to address them.
Yeah.
So great that you brought it to the forefront, but then it's like, we got to tackle it.
Yeah.
Because if you stay in that space for too long, it's just going to spiral you in the wrong direction.
Yeah, like it definitely does seem it's like the era of growth.
Yeah.
It's like as you say, we've pushed things under the rug and run away from things for so many years, but now it's like the era of let's tackle all these issues and let's change and grow.
Exactly.
And therefore all these different therapies and different books and audio books and teachings and philosophies have come up because of we're in that era now. It's almost like the Renaissance period for confidence and mindset.
Very much so. And the beautiful thing in all of that is that when we talk about all this stuff, where our conversations are going to a deeper level, we're having more meaningful conversations, we're getting beyond the small chat,
Yep.
And we're really having those, we have a lot more heart to hearts these days.
We do,
on a much bigger scale. I mean, I take the example of a podcast. You can have a really amazing connection, and it's available to the whole world.
Yeah, it's incredible. I love it.
And there's something to be said about that, because you get to be your authentic self and share that beautiful gift with the world.
Definitely.
I mean,
and you never know who it can help.
Exactly. And I've had like emails just in the past few years that like just kind of like those aha moments that go, geez, it's all been worthwhile. Like,
Absolutely.
Somebody said they picked up my book at the airport just before they boarded a flight, and they're like, I obviously needed to go back and buy your book.
Is your book out in audio version as well, or just written version?
Just written. I have actually recorded it in audio.
Cool.
am procrastinating the process of editing it.
Okay. I love audiobooks. I'm a terrible reader, but I love listening to books. I can just swallow up a book in a day or two if it's read to me. If I have to read it, it'll take me 6 months.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think more and more of us are in that sort of headspace, because especially when we're busy, like if we're working, or we're transport, we
Yep.
can still tune in and
Exactly.
absorb all those learnings. I suppose it's multitasking, isn't it?
Definitely.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I do as well, like I agree, like it is almost like multitasking. So when you listen to a book once, you might not hear everything, you might not get everything, but I listen to them over and over again, and over a few times, I'll grasp most of what I need to grasp.
Yeah.
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 So I really love that.
Repetition.
Yeah, repetition.
Repetition.
Definitely.
Makes a
Well
huge
done.
difference.
Well done. So Joel, if people want to get in touch with you to find out more about how you can help them, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, look, if you go visit my website, quietlysuccessful.com.au, I will be revamping it with all the hypnotherapy details shortly. But if you want to know more, what I would sort of say is maybe just opt in or send me an email and I'll put you on a waiting list, because I can't technically take you on as a client just yet until early in the new year. So it's a waiting list at the moment.
Okay.
And it's very hard, because there's a number of people that are like, you've kind of sold it to me without actively trying to sell it, of course, but they're like, I really want to go through this experience because they can see, how it can really help. And I'm just like, you just have to wait. I'm sorry.
It's only a couple of months.
I need that piece of paper and I need the association to say, yep, you can legally practice.
Nice. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
So obviously your website, LinkedIn, Facebook.
Yeah, LinkedIn, Facebook. I also have a Facebook community called The Quietly Confident. So if you want to engage in some of the discussions that we have, feel free to join us there. That's probably
sensational. Yeah, well, I'll make sure that I put all the links to all those groups and also your book and everything in the show notes.
Amazing.
So everybody can link out to those.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate you coming on the show. It was a fantastic discussion. I love talking about mindset and confidence because it's something that's very interesting to me. And, it's something that I think a lot of people can get a lot of benefit out of. So really appreciate all your insight and your experience. Anything you want to leave us with today?
Yeah, look, I want to hit home that incredible message that if you feel like you've had the doubt, you've had the self-talk that says you're not good enough, you don't have the self-confidence, remember, you get to choose.
Yeah, it's a choice. I like that.
It is a choice. It is always a choice. Yeah. And if it's hard to change the kind of thought patterns, it's okay, because it takes a while to adapt new ways of thinking. And that's just a learning process.
Yeah. And that's why coaching is good, because they help you and be accountable. You can be accountable too for that change.
Exactly. Yeah. So the take-home message is you have choice.
You have choice. I love it.
Yeah.
Well done. Well, thank you very much, Joel, again. Fantastic discussion for a Friday afternoon.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really enjoyed it as well. Great discussion. And I hope your listeners get tons of value out of this.
Absolutely. So do I. I mean, I've learned a lot, and I hope everybody else learns a lot as well. So feel free to check out all the links and all the information about Joel that I'll put in the show notes. And for everybody out there, have a fantastic weekend. And we'll see you back on Tuesday for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. Bye for now.